It seems like the summer gets shorter every year. Welcome back to Inside the Zone with the News Sentinel sports editor, Tom Davis. I'm Glenn Marini, and all season long we're going to be talking high school football every Monday here on Wayne.com. And before we really get into talking about games this year, let's talk about some of the conferences. And we're going to start with the SAC. Kind of a same old when you look at the top of this conference. It looks like it's going to be some combination of Luers, Snyder, and Dwenger. And who do you think is going to come out on top? Because I can tell you who I think is going to be number one.
Well, I disagree that it'll be the same old. It'll be those three teams battling it out, but it's not going to be the same old because the last 5 years, Bishop Dwenger has run roughshod over this league. That stops this year, and I don't know if I'm right about that, but I'm going to stick with my prediction on that. I think Snyder will end up winning the SAC this year, barely over a really good Dwenger team and a really good Bishop Luers team. Snyder has a lot of experience back. Here's the key to Snyder this year, though. They have a lot of size back. And Kurt Tippmann told me the other day that they haven't had the size necessary over the last few years, but they've got it this year, and they're motivated because they got spanked in the season opener last year by Bishop Luers, and then they lost that heartbreaking double overtime game to Dwenger. So they thought they knocked on the door last year. They want to break through the door this year. I think Snyder's going to snap that long Dwenger streak this year.
All right, and I'll go with Luers because I think last year 34-13 Luers over Snyder in week 1. I think it's definitely going to be closer this year, although the game's at Luers Field. I like having James Knapp at quarterback. That's where I give them the edge.
Everybody would like that.
Yeah, that's where I give them the edge. A senior quarterback, a 3-year starter. I think it's going to be Luers, Snyder, and Dwenger, 1, 2, 3 in conference. And Jalen Smith, a junior for Bishop Luers. He didn't get that many carries last year because Kenny Mullen, Quion Maddox, other guys had to touch the football. Steve Kiermaier. I think Jalen Smith is the best player in this area, and I think we're going to see that on Friday nights. I wouldn't be surprised if he has 1,200, 1,300 yards this year, and teams are going to key on him.
I agree with that. I think he is the best player in the area this year, and that's saying a lot because there's a lot of talented players in northeastern Indiana. I think the talent level dropped from last year. We had so many great quarterbacks last year, if you remember, but we still have a lot of good players, but I do think Jalen Smith is the best athlete out there. I saw in the scrimmage the other day that you and I were both at, they really lined him up at defensive end and just harassed the quarterback. So, yeah, he'll have his impact offensively and running the ball, but I think his biggest impact is going to be on the defensive side of the ball.
And it's not to say I don't think that Dwenger will be bad this year. That I think we both picked him to be third. I thought Dalton Wheeler did a nice job replacing Patrick Ryan at quarterback that we saw in the scrimmage, but I just think at some point they're going to be knocked off, and I think this may be the year because both Snyder and Luers are improved.
Well, Dwenger lost 19 players from last year's team that were recognized by the SAC, either first, second, or honorable mention, and some of those players were huge names. I mean, Ramond Wright and Tony Springman, and Jalen West, and the list goes on and on and on. They just lost so much last year. That's difficult for any program to overcome. Now, Dwenger, we both know they're not going 5 and 6 this year or anything like that. They're going to be right there in the thick of this race, and it wouldn't shock me if we were both wrong and Dwenger did win the league. But yeah, they just lost so much off last year's team, and I think Luers lost a lot too in their top 3 rushers, top 4 scorers, and so on with the names that you mentioned. I just think that all of that with Snyder's motivation and their size and their athletic ability, they're going to just eke it out over those two teams.
Obviously, the SAC has changed a lot. Harding and Elmhurst in the last 2 seasons have gone by the wayside. Who's a team that you think is going to be, I don't want to say the best of the rest, but a team that's climbing the standings? Because I really like what Northside has, especially on the defensive side of the football. I
agree. Northside's defense is really going to be improved this year. I tell you, Coach Hall was really excited about what they did in the weight room over the offseason. Tim Hagedorn, a linebacker, put on almost 30 pounds, and they have a number of playmakers on the defensive side of the ball, and they've got some experience offensively with C.J. Jackson coming back, and they've got some new players that are going to run the ball and be at receivers. And so, yeah, Northside, I think, will be the best of the rest. I have them 4th in the SAC, just a notch above the surprising Northrop program, which also returns a lot of players. And the biggest thing about Northrop is they have the same coach in place for an entire year. Coach Martone is really excited about what they're getting done in the offseason, and they have a lot of experienced starters back.
Yeah, Eddie Fields at Southside takes over that program. He's been the baseball coach at that school. Robert Brown, who had success as an assistant at Snyder, takes over the Wayne program. So some new faces leading programs in their first or second year in the SAC. And the one game to key on from the SAC in week 1, it's one of the best games every year, and it's going to be at Luers. Snyder, Luers. Could this determine the SAC title right off the bat?
Oh, absolutely. It could play a big part in that. Last year it kind of set the tone for the big Luers-Dwenger matchup at the end of the season, but then Snyder bounced back and almost knocked off Dwenger. But yeah, it's interesting that they have to play excellent football right from week 1. And Snyder toughened up their schedule this year. They have Cathedral and Penn on their schedule in the non-conference. I asked Coach Tippmann, were the Patriots not available? I mean, why didn't you schedule them? But so there's no off weeks in the SAC for some of these teams.